Hello, welcome back to Spooky Boy and the Spirit Sisters, a podcast for the strange and unusual,
by the strange and unusual.
This is episode 3 of season 2. Before we kick it off with today's topic, we have a few things to address.
So it is with a heavy heart that we have to announce that Cassidy will be stepping away from our podcast. We support her in all of her decisions and will always be her number one cheerleaders for all her future endeavors. We wish her the very batty best. She will always be our spirit sister. To check out her official letter or statement, go ahead and head over to her social media. It's already been up there for a couple days. But on a much happier note, today's episode kicks off our big contest of the season. So, here's what you're gonna have to do. Each of our episodes, starting with today's episode, will have a code word hidden in the episode. Now, what you have to do is every episode, all the way up until episode 12, you have to gather all of the code words. And then, on top of that, you have to rearrange all of the code words to accurately spell out the sentence. That's right. Each code word we give you is not going to be in order. It is up to you to figure out the secret message that we are trying to say. Those who accurately give the sentence in full completion with all of the words in the proper order will then be entered into the contest. Now, Amanda, why don't you tell them what they're gonna be winning?
All right, so I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty biased. These prizes are pretty awesome.
Pretty bitchin'.
Yep. So the first prize is a planchette from my mom and I's Etsy shop that we just started. She makes the planchettes herself. The Etsy shop itself is called Under the Ogham Tree, so if you want to give us a follow on Instagram, that'd be great. Your second prize is your very own tarot reading from a spirit sister of your choice. Or, if you so wish, you could choose both of us.
We can tag team it.
Yep. We're pretty good at that.
Mm-hmm. But like we said, you got to gather each and every one of the code words every episode. You have to rearrange them and correctly pop them into the correct places. You send us in either a message or a comment. I think a message would be better just so you're not giving things away.
Yeah, that way we can have like your name specifically and it's just like private and
yeah, you don't want to give it away because then everybody will know.
Yeah.
But you never know. Maybe it's incorrect that they're putting on there.
Yeah.
But go ahead, shoot us a message, give us the proper message, and you'll be entered.
Yeah, and then on the season finale of this season, we will announce the winner.
Yup. I'm excited.
Me too.
It's a great way to keep plugging along. So, and with that being said, let's dive into today's topic. So, we are going to be talking about haunted places in Illinois.
The Prairie State. Our state.
Good old Illinois. Paranormal
Illinois.
aspect of the Prairie State. So I figured we'd start with a place that's a little closer to home. So we're roughly in McHenry County. We're kind of, each of us are spread out a little bit.
Yeah.
But the place I wanted to talk about was the George Stickney House, also known today as the Bull Valley Police Department. So I actually, at first, I got my associate's degree while studying at McHenry County College. And driving every day from my house to MCC, I'd take the back roads through Bull Valley. And there was always this building that I would always pass. I never knew what it was. And it was so weird because you look at it and there's hardly anything around it. Like, there's no, big shrubberies, concealing it. It's just kind of there. parking lot, whatever. So the thing that stood out mostly about it was the whole building is round. Like,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
rounded.
not-
There's no corners in it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird.
It's crazy. And I didn't know anything about it at the time. I just was like, that's a really weird place. And it kind of gave off like this weird kind of like feeling every time I drove
Gives off
past
a weird
it.
vibe.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's an old ass house.
it
Yeah.
is, but it was just it was weird, no corners, the whole building, like it's rounded off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't see stuff like that back when it was built. So it's
And even for the area that it's in, like,
yeah.
there's all these like really big kind of like pretty homes in the area, and there's a lot of like foliage and stuff, and then there's this random ass building,
Yeah.
and it's all rounded. So every time I drive past it, it was just always like, there's something about this place, Come to find out that it's actually the Bull Valley Police Department. Now, Bull Valley is a very, very small town. And the more research and digging that I had done at the time, come to find out that the building was originally built by George and Sylvia Stickney in 1836, and the two of them were huge spiritualists. So the reason behind the house's structure, which unfortunately you can't see what it originally looked like today, since the police department has gone in, they gutted the whole thing and they actually made it into a legit police department.
Yeah, did they, in your research of looking into this place, did it say why they chose that building?
I'm getting into it.
Okay.
So I'll get to that point. So in doing the research for this place, there's a couple of different, like, both sides of the spectrum. So there's people that are like, yeah, the place is haunted, it's all this stuff. But on the one side, people are like, no, people just are making up a bunch of shit about it because it's a really weird house and it has a really fucking weird history about it. So when I first initially did my research back in 2012, 2013, there's actually a lot more like testimony and ghost stories around the building. When I first did the research, George and Sylvia built the house in 1836. Now, everything inside the house, all the walls and everything, just like the outside, they didn't have any corners. Now, there is an old myth about ghosts getting trapped in corners, and originally it was said that the reason that George and Sylvia did that was because they didn't want any entities trapped in the house. So it was more like a preventative motion, like, oh, we don't want anything like this. So it was almost like a fear-based thing.
How's a
when we
ghost
first
get
did it.
trapped in a corner?
don't
It can
know.
go through a wall,
Fuck knows.
but it can't go through a corner. Oh no, my weakness, my kryptonite.
Well,
The corner
when I
where
decided
cobwebs are.
when I decided like to research the house again, because we decided that we were going to do this episode, I was doing the research more and more, and there's actually more recent articles and stuff that came out that said the reason that they actually rounded off all of the corners was because they wanted to make it more comfortable for ghosts, because the ghosts get trapped there, and it wasn't so much like a preventative measure, it was more so, oh, we don't want them uncomfortable. So I don't know how the belief of ghosts getting stuck in corners came about, but think about it. If you're a round object, so say a ball, okay, and you're in a square room, you can get wedged in a corner.
Maybe if I'm inflated.
I mean,
I was like, if I'm fully at my capacity with air, I ain't getting stuck in a corner.
well, I don't know. I don't know a good metaphor to put this by.
There's no reason. It's just a weird building with the round corners.
Well, no,
and I mean,
because
there's the
thing is
theory.
you can get things stuck in like a 90-degree corner, because if you're in a tight spot, you can't do mostly turning, so it's you have more range of motion in things when it's more
These
like
dumbass ghosts don't know how to operate a corner.
aerodynamic. Okay, things are more aerodynamic when it's smoother.
All right, let's move
okay?
past the corners. What?
Well, no, but that's the thing. The corners are a huge thing about it because originally when the house was built, there was no corners. Like, everything was rounded off. Like, no corners.
Do they have corners now?
Now they do because the police department were like, we can't function this way. Like, so they actually went in and they gutted things and they put stuff. The only thing that's actually original to the house to this day is just the outer structure of it.
Now, have you ever been inside it?
I personally have not.
All right, I have been in there.
So, have you?
Yes, because, my mother. She's like, my son can see dead people. Well, here's this house in Bull Valley. Let's just drag him in there. I thought I was getting in serious trouble because here I am showing up at a police station. I'm like, what did I do? But I was so young. And I mean, I was young when she dragged me there. So I can't remember if all of it's that way or not.
But he's been there.
Yeah.
But I've
at least
been there.
you've been there.
And I know they used to.
Lauren usually stays away from police departments.
But I know that they used to say, they used to have tours there. I'm pretty sure.
They did, and I think they still do to this day, but now they they don't like having it be that history like it used to. I mean, think about it. When you have haunted places, it's more susceptible to vandalism. Right. It's like a tourist attraction. And now the police department's more so we're a functioning police department. We have a job to do. We've got stuff to adhere to. So they can't drop everything just to have ghost tours and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why the more recent articles that have come out are more not haunted, more so for attraction purposes, because it's a completely different vibe, I guess, around the place, doing research about it today than I remember doing 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
Now, did you find any, were there any stories about people being there? Maybe criminals who were there for a night?
I haven't found any stories about criminals and stuff, but there was. I remember when I did my initial research that there's actually a couple police officers who used to work out of there, and at one point the police officer said that while he was there, his desk was actually tilted. He came in one night, and I don't know if he was doing his rounds, but when he came back, the desk was tilted, and he's like, it's a big metal desk. There's no just lifting,
moved, tilted,
lifted. So lifted up on one end and kind of
so it was on 2 legs as opposed to 4,
so,
tilted over.
Yes, tilted over, but not.
Here's me picturing it tilted on 2 of the back
yeah, that's
legs.
how I was seeing it.
Okay, so
like a physics kind of thing, a balancing.
Desk,
I can picture a desk,
stuff, on top.
Yep.
Okay, file cabinet,
real good desk,
cabinet.
Right.
Okay, tilted as if it was leaning upwards.
Okay, so how we were imagining
yeah.
it.
Yes. Okay.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Not flipped over completely.
Okay.
There were also rumors that they'd find drawers being opened and shut, doors being slammed. But as far as anyone who's ever been jailed there, no one's ever come and been yeah, I spent the night in the pokey. Holy shit.
Well, that's what I was hoping for.
Right.
Hey, yeah,
a lot
got too many speeding tickets. I had to take some time in there. A lot of the
stories about people being in it, though, too, I've noticed there aren't as many around. Before, you'd go to a supernatural website or a paranormal page, and they'd be here's a story, here's this. It's a lot harder to find a lot of that stuff now. So I don't know if it's on, because of the police department trying to move kind of away from that, or
I get it because, like you said, the places that are haunted are susceptible to graffiti. And,
so
people breaking stuff, and it's a police department.
Right. So going more into the history of the house. Now, there's been a couple of different tellings and kind of tales. So basically, just from what I got from the different retellings of it. So George and Sylvia Stickney were very big spiritualists. So it was a 2-level home. The entire top level was a ballroom There was like nothing up there, just a big empty ballroom.
That's pretty cool.
That's where they held a majority of their seances. They'd circle up, they'd do their thing, and it would be held in the ballroom.
Did they dance? Did they
would
utilize
hope
it that
so.
way?
A seance without dancing is not a seance worth having.
Sounds like a t-shirt or a bumper sticker.
It's actually, I gypped it from V for Vendetta, but you know.
Oh, okay.
The bottom half was where they did their living, you know. Now, there's stories or rumors, whether it's true or not. So George and Sylvia Stickney, they had children, but their children passed. I don't know how they passed away. I don't know if it was from sickness or what have you, but their children passed away. Mm-hmm. And the story is that the reason that they held all the seances and they had such a deep-rooted, like, interest in a lot of the stuff was trying to get a hold of the children that had passed.
Makes sense.
So that's why they were very much welcoming of the spirits in the home.
In hopes that one of them would be their kids.
Right. And trying to get a hold of those on the other side. So what are you going to do? If that's your main goal is being able to contact those on the other side, I want to make my house as comfortable for them as possible. Mm-hmm. So what's that? You bitches don't like corners? Well, we're going to throw all the corners away. No more corners.
There we go.
So it's, I wish I had seen, I'm very interested in seeing what it looked like before trying to like dig up a blueprint of how the house was originally, just to be able to see like
I'm sure it's in county,
the rounded corners.
Like somewhere in a library or something like that. They always all counties keep documentation on all that kind of stuff.
I hope so.
I'm sure it's there.
But I wasn't able to find anything when I was doing my research online. So the house kind of had its own history in its own. Like after George and Sylvia passed, the house eventually just kind of went into ruin. So, because I mean, who wants to go into a house that, the structure, like, it took a very specific person to be like, I'm going to live here.
Right.
Like, us on the other hand, we'd be like, I'm going to buy this house yesterday. Like, this was meant for us. But, like, thinking about, like, interior design and doing that stuff, not so much.
So it's sat abandoned for quite a long time
so
until
it had a lot of shit that needed to be done to it.
Yeah.
You know, it became one of those, like, vagrants would come in and instead of actually, like, turning on the heat for anything, they actually, like, build fires in the middle of the structure to try and stay warm. So there's a lot of stuff that really couldn't stay structurally sound just throughout the years.
Well, yeah.
So I believe it's actually marked as a historical home. I believe so. Or it was either it's in the process of becoming one. However, the police department came in, like, took over the building for the small Bull Valley. So they're like, oh, hey, here's this. Now, rumors, and I haven't been able to find anything about this being true or not true. There's just nothing about it. But one of the rumors I remember hearing was that there was actually, in this home of many rounded areas, there was one corner in the home. And that's apparently rumored, allegedly, where George Stickney ended up passing away. He was found in that corner.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was that house or if it was a different house.
Yeah, it was supposed to be that there was one error. There was a corner found in the house, and that's where George eventually passed away. So whether
just, like,
or not
slumped over there and died, or
maybe
had a heart attack.
The way I see it is he's been living in this
house. It was like Blair
house.
Witch style, like someone ran in and he's just like standing there in a corner staring at it, kind of.
The way I kind of see it is like I have this vision, like the whole house has been like built. You've got all these rounded areas, and then fast forward like 15 years in the future, like all of a sudden George is like minding his business and realizes after all this time that there's one actual corner in the house, and he just has a heart attack and a fit of rage.
I mean,
like,
maybe.
But there isn't any like actual proof behind it, but it's one of the rumors. Scrolling through like the different comments and stuff from like anybody else who has experiences with it. There have been quite a few people that have claimed that driving past the house, like, they've had weird things happen where either they'll lose the radio signal or something happens with their car a little bit down the ways. Like, someone said that they completely ran out of gas when last time they checked it wasn't possible. Someone claims that, the car started acting up the moment they drove past the house, stuff like that.
I'm going to say a lot of that's just like...
That could be anything.
The radio thing could be explained because they're passing
radio
by
thing. I mean, even the person was saying, well, that, but also that one being like, oh, I ran out of gas. Well, if you have a broken fuel meter or fuel sensor or fuel pump in your car, like, voila, there you go. And it also could add just to that whole spookiness behind I drove past this weird building and this happened, right?
Like,
just
I
stories
drive
are
up
stories.
to my house now and there's 2 spots and I drop radio signal every single time.
We don't live in a flat area.
Yeah.
So,
and it's very hilly in that Bull Valley area.
Yeah.
So that...
And a lot of that's protected land and stuff like that. So you can't build... Everything has to be spaced out to protect the wildlife and everything there. So there's not a lot there that, I mean, just that in general, there's not a lot there. So you can drop cell phone signal, you can drop all that stuff. So I think a lot of it's just, here's a weird building and, let's add a story behind it. Yeah. So,
and with that too, and any other rumors, there was rumors that there's still like almost like a secret community of spiritualists that still live in that area.
I thought you were going to say live in the police department.
Not like
they're mole people. The fucking mole people.
Under the Bull Valley Police Department.
Dude, now I can get into that story.
Right? But, there's like a secret group of spiritualists, I guess not so secret if it's kind of like a common rumor that everyone's like, oh, hey, that also kind of congregate roughly in the area of Bull Valley and do their stuff. But I mean, hey, more power to you.
Right.
That could also be, shit, there's a group of pagans that get together and people are like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Hey man, you got the local bowling team. Now you got the local pagan gathering, and you got the mole people. So what are you gonna do?
So, but that's just from where we live. That's near McHenry, Crystal Lake, Woodstock area, Bull Valley. So it'd be cool if they were still doing like cool tours and stuff. But I don't know. Like, I looked into it, being like, oh, well, maybe, like, this could be something we do. We all go to the Bull Valley Police Department. But it sounds like everybody's very, like, eye-rolly. Like, just not, like, oh, here we go again. So, and to me, that kind of takes away from the whole experience.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather go to a place where everyone's like, yeah, this place is fucking haunted.
Right,
and
I know,
I'm like,
same.
yeah, okay, let's look.
Yeah, and it sucks because, like, where we live, a lot of people are very hush-hush about, like, the haunted stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
taboo.
It's very taboo. There's, even in Chicago, a lot of places that people who've gone and had experiences, they still don't really talk about it because it's just like this, I don't want to be called crazy and looked at weird and stuff like that. So I feel like it doesn't matter if it's Illinois or even Arkansas. It doesn't matter where you go. It could be California. There's always going to be places where everyone's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. So, but I remember too, like, one time driving through, this is a random story, but it has to do with that. So when I was going to MCC, that was like kind of like the big thing. Like, you drive to school, you drive past the spooky police station, I think even one time my friends and I drove out there late at night just to see if there was anything. Like, I don't know what we planned on capturing. We were just like, or what we planned on seeing. Like, we drove all the way.
Cop lights.
Yeah. Just
police
like
pulling your ass over and being like, get the hell out of here. What are you doing?
What the fuck are you doing? But we drove out there just like hoping to see a ghost walking up and down the street, But there was nothing. So if anything, there was deer and wildlife that we saw, but we didn't see anything.
Oh, spooky.
obviously the lights are on, but it's a fucking police station.
Yeah, it's
Well,
open
yeah.
24
So, and that's why
hours.
it's like, you can't really do much ghost hunting because it's a fucking police station.
Just go up there, knock on the door.
So-
Hello, can I
We hear you have ghosts.
hunt your ghost?
We won't look at anything. We won't touch anything. We will just let us be.
Yeah. So, but no, one time I was driving to school and I actually got stuck for like an hour and a half. I was actually late for class because someone, like one of the people who live in the area, had found an actual human skull outside of their home. Like,
Whoops.
yeah, it was like, what?
Sounds good.
What the hell?
Going away from
like
murder.
an actual skull. Like someone was taking their kid out, walking him to the bus, and as they were walking out there, the kid must be like, "Hey, Mom, what's this?" And she's like, "Oh, honey, it's a human skull." A human skull? And like there were police everywhere. People were freaking out about
Was
it.
that how exactly it went too?
I hope
Little
so.
Timmy with his mom skipping down to the bus stop being like, "Mom, what's that?" "Oh, honey, that's just a human skull." "What did you say? A human skull?" Like, very cartoonish. I really
That's
hope.
exactly how I pictured it in my mind.
I hope that's how it went.
Right.
But I remember like having to reroute, like after a while they were like, okay, fine, like they were rerouting everybody. And when I showed up late to my class, I like told my professor like, hey, this is going on. And the professor was even one of the people to be like, hey, it is over by the old Stickney House, so who knows, remains of whatever they're doing. So it's kind of like one of those things, like, so, but then they ended up finding that it was just like
Our
one of
local haunted
those-
house.
yeah, it just ended up being one of those like do you ever have like one of those science teachers that had like
Oh,
really
yeah.
weird human
Every
like,
single one of
or
them.
like dead animal shit? Well, they found it must have been from like a lab or something. So, but it wasn't anything cool backstory with it, but
Nothing happens up here.
no. Don't say that because we
Yeah.
have a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
but we're not that kind of podcast.
No, we aren't.
So, but yeah, the George Stickney House.
Yeah. I wish we could go there.
I wish
I
it wasn't
we
a
could always
police
try to
department.
reach out and just see.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to ask, right?
That's true.
So
Again, I want to go to a place where everyone's like, "This place is fucking haunted,"
Yeah.
instead of,
Yeah. Yeah. So there's this place down by where I'm from. I'm not originally from up here. I grew up in like Bradley, Bourbonnais area. If you don't know where that is, it's where the Bears
Kankakee
used
County.
to practice every summer. That's usually how people know
Yeah.
of that area. But in the town over from Bradley is Manteno, and there was this state hospital that used to be there. It opened in 1929, and then it officially had closed, like the hospital itself closed in 1985. Many people have said that this place was code word hell on earth down there. The place itself was where like the mentally ill were sent, and back then you literally could have been sent for
a
PMS,
myriad of reasons.
like the stupidest reasons. When it was abandoned in 1985, people had gone in it and they were starting to like vandalize and all that kind of stuff, and that's like a lot of what people say like really amplified like all of the experiences that people like, all the ghost happenings and
why
stuff
did it
like
close?
that.
Like, was
So-
there a
Because
reason
it
for
was
it?
a horrible place.
Yes, it was. It was like every other like asylum that has ever been.
Questionable
Yeah, it was-
experiment.
There was
Okay.
like
Sadistic
lobotomies that were
shit.
being performed. There was like water treatments that were very questionable. There was like electroshock therapy. There was abuse.
treatments that were actually, in fact, torture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I didn't know if it
And
was like
that's
just
just
they
the
ran out of state
surface.
funding or
I
stuff
think
like
that
that.
was partly it too.
Okay.
Originally the whole like area, like it was its own like town. Like, there was a bank, and actually the bank building is the only building still standing. Like,
naturally.
Yeah. And now it's...
Can't take out the banks.
Well, now it's office buildings, I believe.
Okay.
I haven't been down there to look at it in a really long time.
I've never been to Manteno, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I know I had a cousin who worked at the Manteno State Hospital. It was a really short stint while she was there, but I know that she said it was like super underfunded and it was hell literally working there. She just said like everyone was pretty much dickheads, and but she did say it was like a lot of the times the state would just dump people there that they didn't know how to handle. Homeless people would go in there, and it was just sort of a crazy free-for-all mess.
Yeah.
So she was only there for like a really short time before she just was like, no, I'm not doing this. But
Yeah. The area itself was accumulated as like 69 different buildings, and underneath all of this, there's tunnels that supposedly they only used them for like water and heating, but there's like rumors that that wasn't the only thing that they used them for.
what do you mean by like water
in
and
between
heating?
each building? So like every building has tunnels underneath them. Like they go to each and every building that was there. And like all the like water heating, like what's the word?
Like the pipes and stuff?
Pipes.
And ventilation systems would
Yeah.
run through those tunnels?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. I could see water for sure. Like you could take the piping and you always run that underground anyways. But like for heating systems, ventilations, that would be ducts within in the ceilings and stuff like that. I've never heard of like
ducks in the ceiling.
not quack quack.
That'd be interesting.
But like most of the time, a lot of ventilation systems are built into walls and stuff like that, not running underground. At least from my knowledge, but I am no heating specialist or anything like that.
Who knows how they did it in 1929?
Yeah.
So
That's also the year that you were able to just walk into a pharmacy and get a concoction of like cocaine, cannabis, and fentanyl, just because why the fuck not?
Like a lot of people have said that that's not the only thing that they use them for, that they would put patients down there if they were being ornery and like leave them there. Like there's they say that they would use them to like transport patients between the buildings.
I could see that.
Yeah. Or like putting like dead patients down there. I've heard that.
Like body shoot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oof.
But when this place closed, it was abandoned for a long time, and a lot of people have said that, and this is just a rumor, I don't know if it's true, but they say that these tunnels go to Chicago. Which I don't...
That's got to be some insanely long-ass tunnels, because like even... Like I know Kankakee area fairly well because my grandmother lived there, and I got family that still lives there. But like, it's still not close. It's not close at all.
No. So that's why I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, it's got to be. I'm gonna say that's bullshit.
But they also say that Al Capone used them to escape from the law, like that. The tunnels also went to like places, like he had like a hideout in Piatone. There's this bar right off of, I think it's either 45 or 50, and he would go there and like he would use the tunnels to get there, which I could see that because Piatone is a lot closer to Manteno.
I could see that, yeah. I mean, Al Capone and all the big gangsters of that time had a lot of hidden rooms, hidden areas to escape places and all that stuff. So that's more plausible than, this tunnel goes all the way to Chicago.
Yeah.
And what the hell would it go all the way to Chicago for?
Who the fuck?
Was someone longboarding that? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But since it had been abandoned for a while, nobody really wanted to like put anything there. But then when I was younger, they made it into like a home for like troubled kids for a while. Nobody really talks about it.
Imagine why.
And that was very short-lived, though, and then it was abandoned again, and then they started tearing down the buildings and stuff like that. But, like, once it was abandoned again, like, people would go in there, and there's nothing to do down there, so a lot of people would just go in there and, like, try to get scared, or they would, like, have parties and, like, drink and, like, do drugs and stuff like that. You could also access the tunnels, so people would go down in there. Mom, if you're listening, please close your ears.
Oh, you know she's listening. You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, I am. I know, and I don't know.
Amanda's grounded from the rest of from here to eternity.
Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm 25, almost 26, and I'm grounded. In high school, me and a group of friends, I'm not going to name them.
Just in case they get grounded too.
Yeah. I'll take one for the team, guys. We decided that it would be fun to go down in them because they weren't like completely closed off at that point. You could still access them. And we were like, this will be fun. Like, we're a group of teenage girls. Like, who the fuck thinks of this? But, so we go down in there, and needless to say, I was scared shitless for many reasons. One, because it was illegal. And two, the vibe in those tunnels was creepy. And, like, I was not okay. And, like, if you know me, I'm, like, when I get that feeling, like, there's, like, it literally felt like someone other than the people that were there, the actual people, that we were being watched. Like, not by, like, a police officer, like, being scared, like, oh, shit, are we gonna get arrested?
I don't know. The CIA and the NSA and the FBI.
What?
What conspiracy bullshit are you going to try to spit out here? Oh, at the Manteno State Hospital, the CIA and NSA are watching it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No. Because, well, back then, like, it wasn't patrolled. Like, the area wasn't patrolled like it is now.
Yeah, because cops didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
They're like, go fall on a heroin needle. We don't care.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's
Yeah,
probably what was being done there.
When we were down there, it was, like, the creepiest part of it was, like, the tunnels themselves, it's not, like, solid, like, concrete or anything like that. It's mostly, like dirt and, like, clay that's holding it all up. And, like, there's limestone in there, like here and there throughout it, which was another thing, because limestone holds, like, memories, and there can be, like...
Yeah, it's a theory of it.
Yeah.
Like, can hold
Don't give me
residual.
don't give me a diamond ring. I want a limestone ring.
What?
So I can remember all of our memories.
But there were also, like, old toys down there, like creepy dolls and, like, cribs, like metal cribs and, like, metal beds and dressers and, like, clothes down there.
Yeah, I would see, like, I'm hearing that, and it sounds like it was, like, apparently, like, maybe homeless people, like, well, like a community kind of thing of homeless people were, like, in there. Because, like, you gotta imagine, like, I mean, it's still fairly up north. We get crap weather up here, so, like,
cold.
I'd imagine them probably being in there and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, and that was, like, one of the factors. Like, we were like, oh, shit, is there someone homeless in here? Because, like, if we're able to access this, like, who knows who else? I mean, we didn't go very far into it.
Chicken shit.
I would be right there with ya.
Yeah, like, I was in the back of the group because I was like, I want to be, like, more towards the, like, exit just in case some shit goes down.
Basically, I want to be near the exit so I can be closer to slamming that door in your face and you guys are trapped and the boogeyman gets you.
Yep. Have fun.
It's never like
Every man for
how
themselves.
fast you can run. It's always like how as
Close
long as you
you
can
are to the
outrun
exit.
the other person.
Yep.
So,
Well, that's
Yeah.
a rude way of looking at it.
yeah, hey, if you're being chased down by a bear, you want to be faster than the person who's
So wait,
also
do you
running
mean if we
past
go
it.
camping one day and you
That
and I
won't
are
happen, 'cause
chased
I don't like
by a
camping.
bear, you're gonna trip me? Is that basically what you're saying?
I'm not
Okay,
gonna
so
trip
all you gotta
you.
do is if you're being chased by a bear, run down a hill. They can't run down hills.
I can't run down hills.
Well, fine, roll down the hill.
Yeah, there you go. Because the bear isn't smart enough to think of that. So,
Oh man, a grizzly can run 30 miles an hour. You ain't
Yeah.
outrunning that.
Lauren doesn't run, so
All right.
But yeah, so I have many stories of this place because, like I said, I grew up down there, and like it was just a place that people like
Hung out.
go. My uncle and my mom, they had gone on a walk there one day while I was at school, and apparently they were walking, and all of a sudden they started hearing like this small, like high-pitched meow. They didn't know where it was coming from, so they followed it. They found a cat in a sewer drain there, and they took the cat, and they like walked around and like asked if they like knew who this cat was, like who its owner was, and nobody knew. So they took the cat, and they still have the cat to this day. Her name is Sadie. She's adorable. She's a Siamese cat.
I thought you were gonna lead up to like there was
Yeah.
some like
I'm
they had
over
this cat in
here.
their hand the
Well-
entire time, and then they just like looked down and the cat's gone. It's not there. It vanished.
No, I just wanted to put a little happy story in there.
Oh, because I'm over here like, oh no, what's happening to them? I know very well that your mom and your uncle are alive, but like,
No, I just wanted to put something a little happy in there because
Well, hit us with a spooky. What are some of the claims? What have people seen or witnessed there? What have you seen and witnessed there? You said you've hung out there a few times.
Yeah, so the bank building, like I said, still stands. I've never been in it because it's always locked.
That's good. I mean, it's a bank. It was a bank.
But one night, me and my family, we were coming home from my grandparents' house because they lived out on a farm nearby, and you always had to pass it. Well, my brother had started crying, so we pulled into that parking lot, and my dad was getting a bottle for him, and I looked back at the building, and there's literally no one there. Like, there isn't even, like, a security guard or anything. And all of a sudden I look in one of the windows, and I see it's pitch black in there, a white mist just fly past, like, the doorway into the window. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
that's normal.
Here's a little 10-year-old Amanda, 10, 11-year-old Amanda, like, oh, cool, that's great. And I'm still looking back there because I'm like, okay, well, maybe it was like a heater or something with dust like kicking on and all of that.
In an abandoned building?
10, 11-year-old
All right,
Amanda.
okay. I'll give you that.
You know what? I give 10, 11-year-old Amanda props because 10, 11-year-old Lauren would be like, ghosts!
You still think everything's
yeah.
a ghost.
Okay, but still.
And so I'm still looking back at the window, like thinking about like what it could be. And like I said before, this building abandoned, nobody's there. The light turns on in that exact room. And I'm like, okay,
Now, did your
can we go?
parents witness it or anything
No.
like that?
Only I did.
Okay.
So I didn't say anything because I was just like, I'm just gonna pretend that didn't happen. Like we're just
Denial's always best.
Yep. And
Admit nothing.
yeah, but thankfully we left like shortly after that. I also have driven through there at night, and I've seen like shadows walking around, and it's not like a person. I've seen that. I get weird vibes when I'm in there.
I mean, I get weird vibes in Walmart, so.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Same. But, like when the actual like buildings were still there, they were like falling apart, and me and some of my friends were walking around the area, and what we thought was like the building falling apart. We actually like saw like a shadow figure, like a shadow being like darting through, and as it was going through, you hear like cries and like moaning, and there's like the typical stuff.
Yeah, like
Like-
memories of the
Yeah.
basically just imprints of possibly when it was running and stuff like that,
Yeah.
of the agony and the suffering that was going on there.
Yeah.
That's really sad, like when you think about it. And that's where I'm thinking, like, you know, like if you know the history behind that building, and then you're going in there, like the tunnels and the stuff like that, like how much of it is actually something paranormal happening versus
Right.
imagination, and like your fear and your anxiety is already peak, you know, pushing up there. So
Yeah.
like you're jumping at everything you hear. Like you see something and you're just like, what was that? Like, and I get it. Like I couldn't say that if I was in that building, I'd be able to just be like nonchalant kind of thing.
I do that when we're doing rituals
Like-
about happy things. Like,
Right.
Like, so that's where it's always like with like, especially abandoned places, I always have a hard time believing what is
Yeah.
actually paranormal or not, because the whole thing was already starting to be torn down and crumbling from decay and stuff. So like you're in a whole other part, and next thing you hear like a piece of the wall fall,
Mm-hmm.
and you're instantly like, what the hell? That's got to be a ghost.
Right, yeah.
Right? So
Yeah. In my group of friends, that when we would go do this, like I was always the one that like was able to like pinpoint, like if like we heard something, everyone would look at me and they'd be like, what do you think it is?
no pressure.
And because I've always had my abilities, like I've been able to tell. I can't talk.
It's all good.
Been able to tell like whether or not like it's possibly something.
Okay.
But I was always able to pinpoint like whether or not I would be the one to go and investigate.
Now, is it torn down completely now?
all the buildings except for the bank building?
Okay. So
Yeah.
everything else has been completely demolished. Damn, I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, I want to go there.
Right. And it's hard because now it's so heavily patrolled because of the history of the area. And actually
makes sense.
now it's a neighborhood. Like they built houses
Uh-huh.
over top of it.
what?
Yeah.
What sick capitalist shit is that?
It's Kankakee County.
No.
Yeah, you haven't been to Kankakee.
When you got something like that happen, you don't go, you know what, we're just going to start over and build on top. No. At that point, you just go, you know what, this looks like government protected, like wildlife land. Yeah, let's have
They
let's
don't
have
do
the
shit like
ghosts
that.
have this.
Wait, hold up. Wildlife, concrete cement is wildlife?
You break it up and you plant new shit.
It's not a
Steve,
community garden
I mean,
center.
it should be at that point.
Yeah,
So
well,
you don't get
Manteno is in a huge place.
This
Yeah,
land
no,
belongs to the
Manteno-
ghosts now.
Manteno and Piatone are very small towns.
Yeah, they're small towns, so like, of course, they're gonna rip up that and then build like homes
Yeah.
to try to bring people in.
It's very it's heavily populated, but it's very small.
Yeah,
And you don't get shit like that down there. Like you don't get like protected land. Like that's not a thing down there. Like other than the state park,
yeah.
like you don't get that down there. But yeah, I've been there a multitude of times. Like there's also a like veterans home, like a nursing home that's right next to it, still like up and running to this day. Like I know people that have gone there. And yeah, like I said, there's the neighborhood there now. I'd be very curious to know if like anybody has experienced anything there.
Knocking on doors. Hi there. We're just out here taking a random survey. How do you like living here? Do you have any weird smells of sulfur throughout the house at any point in time? No? What about cold drafts? Any cold drafts?
So like, yeah, the one I'm drinking right here.
Right, pretty much.
Like, you'd be woken up in the middle of the night by, I don't know, random screams or giggles or any. Is your child experiencing anything weird? You know, new imaginary friends?
Yeah, I don't think
What's
any
this
of them
for?
would.
Don't worry about it. Just taking a survey.
Yeah, it's like people say that the people that live there are very, 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 very quiet about it. Like they know about it, but they're like, no, we're not going to talk about it. And
See, I can come up with about 1 million conspiracies about that.
yeah, there's a lot around like the Manteno State Hospital, or if you prefer Diversitech, it's actually like you can call it that. That's what we call it. But there's a lot of hush hush, like don't talk about it type of like stuff. Like there's not a lot of research on it. I just know this because I grew up down there and I hear all the stories.
What was the craziest, spookiest story you heard about that someone went there after it was like,
that they got attacked by a shadow person?
I mean, that happens in
Like a tall
houses, though.
shadow person, like that had like a deep growl voice, and like they threw like a brick. Thing threw a brick at them. Like I've heard that. I've heard stories about like animals, like animal ghosts, like dogs and cats, like running around the place.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless it's like a hellhound, not sad.
Yeah.
Go away.
It's a lot of like shadow figure type stuff. Like
Okay.
and like because the buildings are gone, it's like hard for people now to be like, yeah, this is what happened in this building, because nobody knows where it was, and like, you can't really pinpoint now. But yeah, that place, I really wish it was easy to like get in there, because it's so heavily patrolled. Like if you don't live in that neighborhood, you're probably gonna get pulled over.
Now, do you think the tunnels are still there?
They are still there. I do know that. They are closed off.
Well, yeah, I figured.
So you can't access them at all. But I know that they're still there.
Big pair of bolt cutters, I'm sure you could.
Yeah. But apparently there's also a like little disheveled like barn behind there that still stands. And it's like original to when like this place opened.
That's the reason it's probably still standing, is because it's probably one of the residents who actually still own that.
Maybe. I don't know. But apparently that's haunted too. People like, it's haunted like by some like homeless guy or something like that died in it. I've heard that. Yeah, there's a lot of like weird stuff, but it's all stuff that I've heard about, like I said, living down there. But yeah. We also have the haunted Frankfurt House, which I've also been to. I haven't been inside.
See, I've never heard of this place.
I haven't either. Is that still roughly in the same area?
So Frankfurt is about, depending, like 20, 25 minutes away from there.
Like north or south?
North.
Okay.
And the Frankfurt House was actually, they just filmed a movie. It's on Netflix right now. It's called Girl on the Third Floor. Came out in 2019, 2020, one of the two.
Oh, so very, very recent.
Yeah. So I actually had gone there like right after they had finished filming. And I had never heard about it until that night. And my friends and I, we had decided to go for a drive, as we usually did, because that's all you can do down there is drive around and listen to music.
Hey, man, they got a Dairy Queen and a Monocles.
But it's not open at 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's true. That's true. What about Taco John?
No, closes at like 11.
Ooh, Taco John, how you do this?
Ooh, tacos.
Anyways, all right, so you guys go to the drive. You guys go
Yeah.
down to the Frankfurt house.
So this was roughly around when I started to like dive back into like this kind of stuff, like my gifts and like the paranormal and all of that. And my friends were like, hey, since you're down here, why don't we go to like some haunted places, like drive by them and we can just look at them, because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I look up, like, we were near Frankfurt, and this house popped up, and I was like, huh. I had lived down there for like 21 years, and I had never heard of this place. And we used to go to Frankfurt all the time. And the house itself, it's like a Victorian style home. Frankfurt itself is very historic. Like, all the houses are considered historic. That's why they call it historic Frankfurt. It was purchased by a guy with the last name of Ziegler, and it had been abandoned for 15 years before he had purchased it. When he purchased it, he said that he came upon a 93-year-old man standing in his front yard, staring at the third floor window. The man had introduced himself as Sam, and he was wearing, like, you know those three-piece suits, like the old-timey, like, suits?
Oh, so Sam was a sharp dresser.
Yeah, and he had a fedora on.
Oh, damn.
My lady.
Yeah.
Sam and his clout.
He had told Ziegler that his wife had grown up in the house and that it was inhabited by two ghosts. The first was named Sarah, and then the other was Sadie. Sarah was an English immigrant who contracted a fever while crossing the Atlantic Ocean and died in the house in 1909 at the age of 10. And then Sadie was 12 when she died, and she boarded a train in Boston to escape her abusive parents in 1901 and got off in Frankfurt. Now, she ended up at this house because she had gotten a job as a maid at the Ziegler house. The Ziegler house at the time was a bordello, and one of the patrons of the bordello mistaked her for a prostitute. She was raped, beaten, and then the guy cut her throat.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ooh.
When this happened, they took her and they put her in a shallow grave near the railroad tracks. So the house itself already doesn't have a good history. And see, I'll get into my experience at this house, and it'll kind of make sense, but the house it's a big house. Let me just, like, talk about that for a second. Like, huge house, like, 4 stories, giant backyard, giant, like, garage. Like, the garage was detached from it, and this house itself, it's very ominous when you walk up to it. Me, my friends, we drive past it, and we're like, okay, let's stop. But it's, like, super late. It's off of a busier road. So we turn the corner, and we drive down a little bit, and we park. I don't remember whose idea it was to start walking.
Wait, okay. So there's someone living there
Yes.
currently.
yes.
Or do they just own the house?
So, I believe...
It's Sam Ziegler.
Yeah.
Right.
So he owns the house. He's actually still living there.
Okay, so it's actually being inhabited. Like, he lives there.
From what I'm looking up here, because I was like, oh, I'm really curious about this while you're talking about it. So, yeah, he at least from the story at the time of this story posting, he was living there.
Okay.
And one of the cool stories is that he didn't believe.
Yeah, no, he was not a believer until he lived in
Yeah,
this
one of
house.
his friends refuses to go to the house ever since, because one of the stories is showing that he was Skyping with his friend, and that literally he walked away to use the bathroom, whatever, right? He just walked away. The camera's still going, and his friend literally claims when he got back that a little girl had like come up to the computer in like period time kind of thing, like curious about the person as well as like the computer, and then like walked away. And then they were like, there was this little girl. Do you have a little girl now? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm the only one living here. So that person was like, nope, never going in that house.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
That's curious. And two, it's the little girl wouldn't know that the thing would be recording. So that's, or like rolling. So that's, man, that would be a Zoom
That's cool.
call.
That's a cool story.
Yeah. But me and my friends, we decided to like walk up to the house, and
I dare you to touch it. You want to touch it? Come on, touch it.
She touched the butt.
no, this was only like a couple years ago too. But
poor guy sleeping middle of the night, and he's got some teenagers.
Nobody had been living in the house at this point yet because they had just ended filming. So it was still vacant. And so we're walking, and as we're getting closer, I started to get this feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I'm just like, fuck, what is this?
Taco Bell.
Taco John's isn't sitting well with me.
And like I didn't say anything because my two friends, like I was still like introducing them to like my gifts and stuff like that. And as we get closer and closer, like my head starts hurting. And then like we get up to where like the detached garage is, and I can't breathe. Like at all. I'm like freaking out, and silently, keep in mind. And we're still walking, and we get to like one of the side windows of the house, and I look over, and there is a old woman staring at me. Black eye, like she had no eyes, like there was black holes in her head, and she was just staring at me.
Oops.
I'm just
Someone
like,
get that old lady a pair of eyes.
I'm like, oh, so that's...
You've been marked, Amanda.
I'm like, so that's how this is going to go. Okay. And so I'm like standing there for a second, and one of my friends is like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And so we keep walking, and we turn the corner, and then I look up at the third floor window, and there's a little girl standing there. And she had the same, like she had no eyes, and it was just like black holes, and she was just staring.
No, thank you.
And I was like, cool.
Which little girl do you think it was? Was it Sarah or Sadie?
I don't know. And like this is where I get really confused, is because there's no reports of an old woman dying in the house. So I'm like, well, maybe, like the only thing that makes sense to me is like something that was surrounding in the area that happened. Or maybe it's one of the little girls, she's just showing herself grown up.
Who knows?
That would be interesting. Like,
but I mean, the third floor is where most people claim to see like the girls.
Yeah, because there's one story where like a neighbor went up to the door and knocked on it and was just like, hey, there's a little girl dangling her feet out the 3rd floor window. Like, they were scared that she was going to, like, fall out, but there wasn't a little girl that lived there. So, the old woman, it confuses me. But, like, still I saw it, like.
Do you think that, because, like, do you think that the house could be attracting? Because, like,
I think
it's a haunted place as it is, because, like, those spirits are attracted to the house. They're, like,
yeah, and that's, like, another thing that it could be, because it's also kind of close to the railroad track, and there was a lot of, like, people coming on and off of that.
Yeah.
Like, it could be someone who got, like, possibly ran over by the train. It could be, like, just the surrounding area, because it is a very old town.
Right.
And there's so much that it could be. But yeah, we were walking, like, we kept going past it. We were just like, okay, well, we'll just keep going, and then we'll turn down this street and go back to the car. Well, then when my one other friend, she was just like, let's turn around. Let's walk by it again. I'm like,
that would be me.
Okay, and I still at this point hadn't said anything, like, that I was seeing or feeling. And so we did it again, same things. I saw the little girl. We turned the corner. I saw the old woman. I couldn't breathe. And then we get past the garage, and she's like, wait, I want to go back again. So we did that, same thing. And then we, like, get to, like, the corner, and I'm like, I'm turning around. Like, I'm going back to the car.
I'm sick of this old broad staring at me.
And so we go back to the car, and we're, like, talking, and, like, my one friend is just like, so, Amanda, what did you feel? And that's when I told them, like, everything. And, like, we, like, started looking into it, and, like, that's when because we didn't do any research prior to us going there. Like, I just, like, found the name of it and was just like, okay, let's go. And so
sometimes it's almost better.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to go there already knowing and
the history of it.
And having kind of, like, play on your experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I prefer doing that. Like, unless it's, like, a super, like, well-known place that I'm already going to know about. But
you immediately start putting, like, things together.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. And that place, I don't like that place. I would love to investigate there. That would be amazing based off of what I've experienced. Like, just being able to validate that would be, like, the only thing that I need. But, yeah, that place, there's not a good feeling about that place whatsoever. Like, I don't think it's, like one of those ones where you are going to get, like, attacked, like, every 5 seconds. It's, like, more, like, the history of it and, like, what happened. It's, like, a very ominous feeling that comes with it. I'm very curious to know who that old woman is. Like, because I couldn't find anything on it. And, like, even when I was doing, like, extra research for this episode, like, I couldn't find anything about that.
Huh.
So, I don't know. But,
yeah,
that house is so creepy.
Talk about creepy. Resurrection Mary, anybody? Now, does anyone know about Resurrection Mary? Because, like, I know I mentioned it to you guys earlier this week, and Amanda, you said you've heard
about it. I don't know, like,
anything about it.
Like,
I think when you tell us a little bit more,
it might jog on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's so many different, like, Mary haunted stories.
Okay, so Resurrection Mary, the reason she's called that is because basically there's a cemetery right outside of Chicago called Resurrection Cemetery. And this same sort of stories have been about Mary has been told for like 80 plus years. It's like one of Chicago's most long running kind of like hauntings. So essentially what it is like the first like reported kind of site was back in like 1939 with a man named Jerry Paulus. He had met a beautiful young blonde woman in a white dress at a local dance hall. They were dancing all night, and he offered to give her a ride home. She directed him down Archer Avenue, and then to have him stop right in front of the Resurrection Cemetery. She gets out, and he's really confused because he's like, what the hell?
I mean, I would.
And as she's walking towards the front gate, she just vanishes in front of him. That's like the first known sighting like of her. And just basically throughout just the decades that have passed, there's been so many different stories. I mean, there's a whole book just about Resurrection Mary and the different sightings that people like motorists have seen of this, what they'll call a vanishing hitchhiker. So one of another big sightings, like another big kind of thing, was back in 1979. The reporter Bill Geist, he interviewed the cab driver named Ralph. He didn't want to give up his last name because he didn't want to be known as a crazy guy. Mm-hmm. But he still was like, I'm telling you, I picked her up, and as we were literally driving down Archer Avenue, we approached the gates, and he's like, I had just looked back there, she was there, and then I turned my head again and she was gone, but the door was wide open. Like if she just jumped out of the moving cab kind of thing. And he's just like, but there was nothing. He's like, I slammed on my brakes, and he was just like, she was gone. Like she wasn't there anymore. And there's just constant stories like that. Some people have seen her just literally like walking down the road in period kind of clothing of like the 30s or 20s. And they always describe her as this beautiful young woman. And they'll see her just walking. She'll get up to the cemetery gates, disappear. Other ones where they'll stop and she'll open up the car door, get inside, and they'll be driving and she won't really talk much. And she'll just be like, oh yeah, just keep going straight. Just keep going straight. And then some she'll just disappear right with it in front of their eyes in the car, or she'll get out of the same thing, walk up to the gates, and just disappear. Other ones have seen her claim that she's just dive bombed in front of traffic. Like, I'm going to prank you, like kind of thing.
Today's the day.
But like, it's one of those things, another story that I heard through looking this up, just because I always I knew about Resurrection Mary and Resurrection Cemetery since I was a kid, because like my mom used to talk about it a lot. But one of the crazy stories too is that back in, I think it was like in the 50s, there was a guy driving down Archer Avenue, and he sees this young woman at the gates, but inside the cemetery, like rattling the gates, like in a frantic, like panic of being like, I'm scared shitless. Like I got locked in. So he's thinking, yeah, because it's 500, the whole damn cemetery is on 550 acres. So he's like, yeah, easily someone could have gotten locked in there after the sun went down. So he pulls over, finds a payphone. He calls the local police. The local police get the caretaker to come down and meet them. And the thing that they reported, not only the motorist, but the two officers as well as the caretaker all reported that it had looked like someone had pried open the gates with like by heating up the bars almost, and got through. And so that was interesting. But yeah, no, that was it's a really short kind of case, because a lot of the history, the other ghost stories behind it is people who visited the cemetery. They'll claim to see imps, or they'll see children running around playing
the cemetery Or is it so much the road leading to the cemetery?
No one really knows because like everyone sort of sees her walking along that road. There's a theory that it's one of many Marys kind of thing from back in like who died I think in 1929.
Everybody back then
Was named Mary.
Mary.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's just one of those things where they think it's this long lost soul of this one chick who got like ran over kind of thing, and they think that's
Maybe
like
she
her
wasn't
thing.
properly buried.
Yeah, like
Maybe.
Yeah, like she has a grave that doesn't have like a gravestone with it, like
so
an
she's
unmarked.
trying to get home
Yeah.
to like the cemetery.
Mhm.
Well-
Idea, guys. We go there.
We just bury up every piece of land leading up to the cemetery, and
Well, no. I'm like to see if we can.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
see
I've
her.
always wanted to
Oh.
go to Archer Avenue and
what
drive
did you
up and
guys
down
do
there.
this weekend? We just
Drove up and down a
Yeah.
road
Yeah.
hoping to see a ghost.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, yeah, I mean, there's been sightings even in early 2000s, I think was the last, like, reported incident of someone doing the same thing. Like, they saw this person, they picked her up, and she just told him to stop by the cemetery, and he was like, what the hell? And she got out of the car, opened the door, closed the door, and just disappeared right in front of his eyes, and he was like, what?
I'm surprised too, because like think about it, hitchhiking isn't a thing that much. Like people like there's been like a revival of it, but like the world we live in today, I'm sorry, I'm not hitchhiking.
No.
I don't care where I'm at or what position I'm in. Like I'll just sit here for the rest of my days if something happens.
Yeah.
Like this is it. This is fine.
Like we got COVID. We got
yeah.
creeps.
Yeah.
I mean that's how people get killed. So.
But I mean,
Yeah.
the vanishing hitchhiker kind of thing, that's like stories that
Oh,
are
yeah.
That's
around
a
the
huge
entire
deal.
world.
Yeah.
You know, Japan is huge with all their stories with how many countless encounters they claim of women or even men of just seeing these ghostly apparitions walking down.
Ghostly hitchhikers.
Yeah.
Ghostly passengers.
Yeah, so
I've seen one before.
I think it'd be really cool to like go down to there
Yeah.
and be like, "What up, Mary? You get home to the cemetery?"
Hey,
Just
girl.
driving up and down the street going, Resurrection Mary!
Just straight out. One of our heads are out, Mary, and it's like, "My name's Johnny. All right. Have you seen Mary? No. Let us know when you see Mary."
Right. Yeah. No, I have seen a ghostly hitchhiker before.
Like an actual ghost or just someone that was so white?
No,
that
it was actually a ghost.
Austin's on the side of the road. You just didn't bother
Wow.
picking him up.
I would like to clear the record here. You're whiter than I am.
You know
I think
what?
I'm the whitest out of all of us. I'm borderline like ghostly. So, but yeah, this is what makes me mad. So there are no known reports of Algonquin Road being haunted. Yet I've had so many encounters on Algonquin Road.
Like Algonquin
Maybe
Road.
you're
Like,
haunted, Amanda.
I probably am. Like Algonquin Road.
The entity is Amanda.
so I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna see if Algonquin
Through-
Road has anything.
Like, if you're from up here, you'll know where this is, but like in between like South Barrington, like Algonquin and like, oh, what is that town called? I can never remember. It's like South Barrington area. There's like an area where there's a lot of like horse farms and like large homes with a lot of land. And I don't know why, but it's always on one side of the road. Like I've never experienced anything on the other side, but The first encounter that I had on there was while I was in cosmetology school. I was driving home, and I had school from like 5:30 at night, and I got off at like 10. So I didn't get home usually until about 11, even 12 sometimes. And I'm driving home, and at around like 10:30, 11 o'clock, I hit traffic. Who the fuck hits traffic at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in South Barrington?
A lot of ghosts, a lot of places to be.
Yeah, they're busy, man.
Like, I think there might have been like an accident or something like that, but we were stopped.
If that was the case, then you probably saw the ghost of whoever was dead.
But we were stopped, and all of a sudden I felt my stomach drop. And I was just like, fuck. Like, so I'm like looking around. I like look to my left, and I don't see anything. I look in front of me. I don't see anything. I look behind me. Don't see anything. And then I look to my right. And in like the foresty area, there was this like these red little lights. What I thought were lights. And around it, like a black, like half human, half bull looking thing starts forming.
What out of the Greek mythology of fucking Minotaur did you see? What were you smoking? Were you smoking?
No.
So Amanda's seeing
Did you fall
Minotaurs.
asleep in the traffic?
No. No. I'm like,
Were you tripping on acid? Like, guys, I don't know about you, but there's a fucking Minotaur coming out of the forest right now.
so.
Did you have pizza and someone, you were like, oh, I didn't order mushrooms on this pizza?
No. But here's me freaking out, like, holy shit, what the fuck? Am I just exhausted? And
yes.
like, it's very possible, but this thing like started getting closer and closer to me, and I'm like, well, that's great. And then it gets like to the like edge of the road, and I'm like, nope, I'm done. So I like turned around, like made a U-turn, and like went the long way home. I was just like,
Went the long way home.
You know what? Some cosplayer out there is just so excited that they got someone finally. You know,
possible.
Like I just scared the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, no. No. I've also seen people like walking down the road, and then like I pass them thinking, oh, they're just walking and they're being stupid, like they have a death wish. Like, and then I look back and they're not there.
Did they disappear into the forest?
Maybe, I don't know. But I've also seen, like, that's where I saw, like, the hitchhiker. And I'm one of those people that I will not pick up a hitchhiker. Like, no, I'm not about to die today.
Minotaur man, do you need a ride?
So I'm driving and I see this person and I just keep going. I'm like, no, I'm not feeling nice today. And
Would you feel obligated to pick up a hitchhiker any other day?
no. But I'm driving and then I look back, not there anymore. So that's my ghost hitchhiker experience. But I've also seen like cars that were behind me, and like 1 minute they're there and then out of nowhere they just disappear. But there's no roads nearby where they could have turned off.
You just veer right off into the field.
Right. That'd be like the only thing that they could do. So I don't know. I've never come across any like reports of it being haunted. Doesn't mean that there isn't, but like, man, that road is haunted. I just know it. But
Well, I mean, I was just looking up like Algonquin stuff, right? And there's like old forum, I guess, for Algonquin where people would like report sightings out in farmlands and stuff like that. So maybe you're onto something.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like the farmlands itself, like the properties, and not the road itself. But there's definitely something with Algonquin Road, specifically on if you're coming to Crystal Lake on there, it would be on the right side. So, I don't know. Who knows? If anybody knows anything about that, let us know.
Or if anybody has any local haunted,
Yeah.
spooky stories of your own, send them to us.
Yeah.
Not only would we like to do a little ditty about them, but we might like to go and actually check them out ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? So you know what would really help us out? A review. Reviews help us out tremendously. Not only does it help our podcast get out there more to more people, but also it gives us insight on knowing more of what you guys want. You know, hearing how we're doing and just all of that stuff. It just helps us out tremendously. So please, there's a lot of different outlets that you can go ahead and leave reviews. You know, Google, different podcast apps allow you to leave reviews on the apps themselves. You know, we love seeing your reviews, you know, no matter what they are. You know, we love sharing them. We love seeing them, and it gives us insight so we can better improve. Or if you think we're doing just A-okay, fine, we like hearing that too.
Yeah.
If we suck, well, if we're doing great, let us know.
Yeah, you can even put, like she said, you could put, like, ideas for us to, like, look into, or, like, places for us to go so that we can talk about it on the podcast. Like,
things are starting to open up for us
Yeah.
here in the Midwest as far as the pandemic goes. So, and you bet your butts we want to go out exploring and ghost hunting and all of that. So, the more suggestions, the better. It'll keep us busy.
Yeah.
And then in the long run, it'll keep you busy listening to all of our reports.
And if you do the review, the more people we get, the more we can give to you guys. So
share with us, so in return, we can share more with you.
yes.
And with that, stay spooky, folks. Bye.
Later.